Once upon a time, the walk to the ground wasn't complete without a stop at your local. These weren't just pubs, they were shrines, meeting points, second homes. Generations gathered under stained glass windows and nicotine-stained ceilings, raising pints to victories and drowning sorrows in defeat. They had character, history, and soul. But one by one, they vanished, demolished for tram lines, gutted by fire, or simply closed when the final whistle blew at the old stadium. Here are 10 classic football pubs that don't exist anymore, remembered by the fans who loved them. Pomona Palace was a hulking corner pub on Cornbrook Road, just a stone's throw from Old Trafford. From the 1950s through the 1980s, it was the place United fans gathered before and after matches. Its snug rooms and back parlor alive with the hum of conversation, the crack of pool balls, and the roar of football on the telly. Customers remember it as an excellent pub serving well-kept Marstons, a place where the booze was cheap, the welcome was warm, and the atmosphere was electric. United scarves hung on the walls, songs spilled from every corner, and it felt like a living room for the faithful, a place where strangers became mates over a shared love of the Reds. Regulars recall locking in on Sunday afternoons, staying long after closing time to keep the banter flowing, the jukebox spinning, and the laughter ringing. The locals were welcoming, the beer was cold, and the sense of belonging was palpable. Then, in the summer of 2013, the doors closed for good. The pub was boarded up, left to rot, and finally demolished in January 2014. The bulldozers came, the bricks fell, and Pomona Palace was erased from the map. But for those who drank there, the memories remain. The warmth, the songs, the camaraderie, and that feeling of being home. Known affectionately as the Stout House, the Cornbrook on Chester Road was a tiny pub with a reputation that towered over its size. It was the first stop for fans arriving from the south, and on Saturdays it was packed to the rafters with Reds swapping stories, shouting chants, and downing last-minute pints before kickoff. The cramped bar echoed with songs, elbows flew as fans jostled for space, and the air was thick with smoke and excitement. Regulars called it a small pub with a huge heart, and that heart beat loudest on match days when the faithful crammed inside to feel the pulse of the crowd before spilling out toward Old Trafford. The Cornbrook stayed open long after other pubs had closed, becoming the last rally point on match night. A warm gathering spot where local banter flowed freely and the evening songs were rehearsed one final time. It was humble, honest, and utterly beloved. Then, in September 1995, the trams came. The Cornbrook was demolished to make way for Manchester's new tram line, its bricks carted off to build the future. Fans watched it fall, mourning the loss of their tiny shrine. No plaque marks the spot, no memorial stands in its place, just the rattle of trams where once there was laughter, smoke, and song. The Old Cock on Chester Road in Hume was legendary, a grand boozerscape of singing, celebration, and occasional chaos. Its history stretched from 1940s matchday pints to 1980s pub brawls, and every era left its mark on the sawdust floors and stained glass windows. Fans remember it as the scene of an infamous clash with Chelsea supporters in 1984, but also as a place where victories were loudly toasted and defeats drowned in bitter. In the 1990s, it became notorious for breaking the rules, showing illicit live 3 p.m. Saturday kickoffs via foreign TV feeds. And on those days, Reds packed the pub to the rafters, cheering goals in unison and belting out "Glory, Glory Man United" while clutching pints. The atmosphere was raucous and raw. Pensioners who'd known United all their lives rubbed shoulders with younger fans, swapping stories over the thump of music and the clink of glasses. It had the feel of a working-class cathedral where the faithful gathered to worship at the altar of football. The Old Cock embodied the club's blue-collar roots, honest, loud, and unapologetically itself. Then, in April 2008, the doors closed for the last time. Regulars still miss its character, its chaos, and the sense that anything could happen inside those walls. It was more than a pub. It was a piece of United's soul, now lost to history. Sam Platt's was a massive octagonal pub just around the corner from Old Trafford on Trafford Wharf Road. It was beloved by United fans as the perfect pre-match stop, a place to grab a pint, a pork pie, and a seat by the big screen before heading to the ground. On match days, the pub was packed with generations of red-clad supporters, laughter and song spilling from the carvery area to the pool tables. Long queues formed for its famous pies and cold lagers, and the air vibrated with chants of "United" and traditional terrace tunes. The multi-level layout gave it a lively, chaotic energy. Families and old mates traded stories over sticky bar counters. Everyone knew the local rituals, and the atmosphere was electric. Regulars speak of Bert's lager pints and prime seats by the screens, of the camaraderie that came from sharing space with fellow Reds before the 90 minutes began. It felt like a modern-day shrine to the match-day experience, a place where tradition met celebration. Then, in June 2017, disaster struck. A devastating fire tore through the building, gutting the interior and leaving only charred walls. Sam Platz never reopened. The loss was widely mourned. Fans spoke of it as the end of an era, the death of a beloved ritual. The pub is gone, but the memories remain. The pies, the pints, the songs, and the feeling of being part of something bigger. The Parkside Pub on Lloyd Street South was the nearest boozer to Main Road, and for decades, it was the beating heart of Manchester City's matchday culture. On home games, it was legendary. Jam-packed bars splashed in sky blue, terraces of older admirers cheering arm in arm, and the air thick with cigarette smoke and anticipation. Fans recall the parking lot lull before kickoff giving way to rock concerts of chanting inside. Supporters belting out classic anthems like Blue Moon, clinking pints of local ales, and toasting the club with a fierce, unshakable loyalty. It was a community living room for City fans of all ages, a place where rivalry with United was worn like a badge of honor, and going to Parkside felt like coming home. The barmaids knew your name, the regulars knew your stories, and the pub itself seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the club. Then, in May 2003, Manchester City played their final game at Main Road. Immediately after the final whistle, the Parkside closed its doors for good. The barmaids admitted there was no way the pub could be kept going without the match days, and the building was later converted into flats. Fans mourned the loss deeply. It wasn't just a pub, it was a shrine, a gathering place, a piece of their identity. Its ghost now haunts the chants of city victory songs, a reminder that once the pubs were full of pride on match day afternoons. The Griffin Pub stood on Braemar Road at Griffin Park, Brentford, famously one of the 4 pubs on each corner of the stadium, a unique feature that made the ground a pilgrimage site for football romantics. On match days, the Griffin was a snug, timbered pub painted in the club's red and white, with supporters spilling out onto the pavement, raising pints of lager and singing the club anthem. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and familial. Generations of Brentford fans rubbed shoulders with lifetime locals over pickled eggs and bitter, the stained glass and ironwork lending an old-world intimacy to the sing-alongs before kickoff. It felt like a living relic, a piece of football history that had somehow survived into the modern age. The pub even made film history, its bar used as a set in movies like Green Street and glimpsed in Bohemian Rhapsody, a testament to its authentic charm. Fans treasure memories of exit chants echoing through its corners after each Bees match, of the warmth that came from being surrounded by fellow believers. Then, in 2020, as Brentford prepared to move to a new stadium, the Griffin closed as a pub and was converted to other use. The pints stopped flowing, the songs fell silent, and another piece of football's soul was lost. For those who drank there, the Griffin will always be more than a building. It was home. The Princess Royal sat at the corner of Braemar Road and Ealing Road, just a block from Griffin Park. This cozy, late Victorian pub was another match-day staple, a place where pre-game rituals were sacred and the sense of community was palpable. Fans remember drinking frothy pints of ale at its long wooden bar, raising toasts in the snug, and soaking in the atmosphere created by red carpet, club scarves hung by the jukebox, and the hum of excited conversation. It felt every bit a Brentford clubhouse, a place where the faithful gathered to steel themselves before battle and to celebrate or commiserate afterward. Cheers often drowned out the roar of passing crowds, and after wins, supporters recall the pub packed with celebratory shouts and post-goal songs echoing off the century-old mirrors. Patrons drank hearty ales and ciders, played darts on the well-used board, and traded rivalry banter that sharpened their wit for the terraces. The Princess Royal's character, from its ornate fixtures to the regulars' call of "Here we go, you bees," secured its place in fans' hearts as a homey place where generations bonded over football and pints. Then, in 2020, as Brentford moved to their new stadium, the Princess Royal closed its doors and was later converted to offices. The warmth, the songs, the sense of belonging, all gone. Brentford supporters still speak of it with affection, remembering it as a cornerstone of their matchday experience, a piece of their identity now lost to progress and change. The White Hart at 51 to 57. The Hale in Tottenham was a local pub near Spurs' old stadium, a pre-match watering hole steeped in North London grit. Fans recall it as a place where hot meat pies and trays of lager were consumed amid excited laughter, where the air was warm and noisy on match days, and where decades-old Spurs songs blared from an old jukebox. Supporters exchanged bets and banter in Spurs white, and signature chants like "Glory, Glory Tottenham" were sung in unison by familiar faces who'd been coming for years. Inside, the pub had a lived-in feel, sticky bar counters, worn stools, and walls that seemed to absorb the energy of every cheer and groan. It was more than a pub. It was a gathering place, a community hub, a piece of Tottenham's identity. Local legends clashed banjos on match night dances, and the sense of tradition ran deep. Then, by 2009, the White Hart had permanently closed. It was later boarded up and fully demolished around 2020 during area redevelopment. Older supporters lament that one of the last bits of old N17 vanished, taking with it the stories, the songs, and the soul of a bygone era. What remains are memories of laughter, of pies, of chants echoing through the night, and a shared nostalgia for the days when a pint at the White Hart was as integral to a Spurs home game as the kickoff itself. The Barton's Arms on High Street in Aston was a stunning late Victorian pub just south of Villa Park, a grand cathedral of claret and blue where Villa fans gathered to worship before matches. Its ornate interior, mahogany panels, stained glass, and leaded windows made it feel like stepping back in time, a reminder of when pubs were palaces and football was religion. Longtime Villa fans remember it as their second home on match days, a place where visiting and home fans alike raised pints of ale and toasted the club with reverence. Before kickoff, supporters ordered Villa brews, branded cask ales, or munched on Scotch eggs in the listening rooms, the air filling with loyal refrains like "Clap for the Villains" and "Sittin' on Top of the World," belted out by terraces of singing fans. The pub's place in history was noted even by local press, who called it just a short walk to Villa Park and a primary drinking spot for fans on match days over the years. It was a landmark, a piece of Birmingham's heritage, and a vital part of Villa's identity. Memories of raucous celebrations, promotion nights, derby afternoons, last-minute winners are etched into the Villa supporter psyche. Then, after a period of restoration, the Barton's Arms finally closed in mid-2025 due to financial pressures. The news hit hard. Fans mourned the loss of their grand shrine, a place that had stood for over a century and survived wars, recessions, and changing tastes, only to fall victim to modern economics. The building remains, but the heart is gone. The Arsenal Tavern on Blackstock Road near Highbury in the Emirates was a decades-old Gunners pub, an essential matchday stop that generations of Arsenal fans regarded as sacred ground. Blogger Gavin Charlie, who started visiting in the late 1980s, said it was the first pub I drank in. I drank there for every home game for about 4 years. The regulars' chants of "Come on, you Gunners" and toasting of pints of Fuller's Ale echoed through its rooms, the walls covered with red and white scarves and mementos. Patriots recall picking at battered fish and chips while swapping stories of Charlie George and Tony Adams, joining supporters club members for pre-game chats, and soaking in the atmosphere that only a true football pub can provide. Inside, there was warmth. Familiar bartenders greeted you by name, old mates saved you a seat, and the collective buzz built as fans filtered toward Highbury. It was a community hub, a place where Arsenal's history lived and breathed, where every pint poured was a toast to the club's past, present, and future. Then, in July 2019, the Arsenal Tavern closed and was boarded up, marking the end of an era. Its loss has been keenly felt. Supporters lament that one of their long-standing community hubs has shut down, taking with it the memories, the rituals, and the sense of belonging that made match days special. The tavern is gone, but the memories remain, the warmth, the songs, the stories, and the feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself.